Okay, I think we're good. All right. Hi guys. Okay. Welcome to the RegiCast. I'm your host Reginald. Hopefully that's never gonna change. I would hope not. I'm your host Reginald. Joining me is Lindsay. Hi Lindsay. Do you want me to call you LiJo?
No, call me Lindsay. Like LiJo was just out of necessity because there's too many Lindsay Johnsons in the world.
That's very true. Do you have so this is I'm already channel changing to start with because I was trying to look you up on Twitter because I started a Twitter recently. Like, do you Twitter?
No, I don't have a Twitter or an Instagram. I don't like being too easily accessible.
Fair. Okay, no problem. Okay, really good. So, guys, I've listened to you guys. I know you guys hate the blast. I'm gonna do it at the end, so feel free to jump the hell out when we're done. But we're just gonna jump right into it. If you want to learn more, first of all, Lindsay has a great YouTube channel, guys.
Thank you.
Let's not even fucking front. Go subscribe to her YouTube channel. Okay, that's my one blaster thing I'm gonna do at the start. Everything else is gonna be in the description, and so let's just get right into it. Okay. So as is tradition, all right, let's start with our first impressions. You guys already know my fucking first impressions in the OP community. Okay, I'm tired. Okay, I'm just gonna post like 7 posts a day and irritate you guys. Okay, Gary V all day. But I am curious what your first impression was. I know we met a while back, so I'm curious to see how that hit for you.
So my first impression of you, I would say like consume, play, vibes, like high energy, but also NE. I don't know if I just combined too many things in one or if that was like too over the top OP, but definitely like that strong NE. Not for the sake of like just like the channel changing part, but like the good mind directions, you know. It's like, you know, sometimes NE can go off in crazy directions and like we just know that's a part of it, but like also going off in really I don't know, innovative and interesting directions too. So I would say, yeah, energy, NE. That was my first impression.
I remember, like, and it's funny because we met, I think, primarily through a Snug call, actually.
Yeah, right? You're one of the very first few people that booked. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, so I called because I was going through some existential drama about your type, as everyone does, who's in this community.
We all do,
right? And it was funny because I remember there were certain times where I thought I was doing NI at certain points. And you're like, no, that's totally NE. I was like, yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous. I was like, oh my God, just broke my brain. I remember that. The other thing I remember about that is you originally thought I was lead consume in the OP system. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I remember like I don't think we were calling it skib back in the day, in the day. But like the consume, play, consume, like entity as a whole just felt like very dense, you know. And I think I had you as like NEFI, but you're NETE, right? I think that's what it was. But yeah, maybe I went through that TE a little bit, but yeah, definitely like the consume, play vibes is what I was hearing.
Yeah. I don't even know. I'm not even going to defend myself. She's right. Okay? I was going to defend myself, but she's absolutely right. So my first impression, it's funny. Like, there's one first impression I just feel ashamed to say. I don't know. I thought you looked like an alien. High key.
Oh, thank you.
I really did. See, now she fucking hates me. I saw it on your face.
I don't. I think that's, I mean, I've always felt like an alien. So if I can look like one too, it's a nice package.
I think you know, I was processing this. This is so inappropriate. I was processing this. I'm like, why would I think this? Like there was a phase that you went through on your channel where I think you were experimenting with like a certain hair color and makeup.
I think it was also the white balance on my camera was not good, and it was giving everything a very like purplyish, bluish hue.
Yes.
And I was like, I had basically was using a fluorescent light setting with a different kind of light that I wasn't supposed to be using it with. And it kind of gave it this purple look, but I was like, whatever. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I remember that, like, and guys, especially in the Facebook groups, I talk shit behind her back. Okay. I was like, yo, she looks like an alien. I don't see what the big deal about her channel is. Okay? I 100% did that. I have since changed my mind. Okay. I know you anyway, let me not make this more awkward than it needs to be. But yeah, so there was that. Cool. I think the other thing though, and this was something that I definitely noted, especially in the Snug call though, and this speaks to your type as like an INTJ, like blast play. It was like you seemed super focused. Cause like I remember even when we were planning the call, you were like, I have these certain time blocks. Right. And you're like, hey, Reggie, like I have like this time block, but I can't interrupt with this other time block for, I don't know what you were working on at that time. I'm sure it was Snug stuff, but and I was like, okay, like I felt immediately, I'm like, okay, I can't fuck with her. Like this is, get to the point, I was still any, unfortunately, but it's super like laser focused is how I would describe you. Like to the point, it's like, I knew not to waste your time is how I felt.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think like I definitely give off those vibes, sometimes too much, because to me the energy dominant game is very serious and it feels very real. And having that sleep third is I'm really trying to be like, okay, how do I preserve energy? So like because I do a lot, relatively speaking, with my blast play. Sometimes I don't see as much of it in real life, but it's like it feels like a lot, and it's almost like this fear of like, will I have anything left, like preserved? And it's like at the same time, it's like I feel like I'm a very lazy person. Like I don't want to do work. I don't want to do more stuff. And so the finest line I can run between doing the things and then also not doing things is the line that I prefer to run on.
Yeah, no, really good. I mean, this is actually gonna be a perfect transition. So guys, here's the overview of how we want to cover this. First of all, I'm fucking exhausted these days. So me talking is only gonna be about an hour. Okay. So I'm recommending right now, start putting your questions in the chat, because at around 55 minutes to an hour, we're going to open up to Q&A. Let's start with that. What I want to talk about is, one, I like your entrepreneurship, especially since I've been getting into Gary Vee, as you know. I do want to talk to you about that, like how are you structuring all this? Because you're doing a lot. Like you have a full-time job, you have a YouTube channel, and then you have Snug.
Yep.
Maybe even other projects on top of that.
No,
like, okay,
3. That's it.
Those 3. Okay. So it's like, how are you managing all that? That's something I'm definitely curious about. We'll get into some OP stuff, but quite honestly, it's like I kind of want to get into that and then use your Snug, like the thing, as you've called it, as a way to talk about your type. Because it's like I think it's a perfect, as I was telling you, it's like it's a perfect way to summarize what you're about. Right, like both from a personality perspective and just like just what you care about, So, guys, like I said, questions in the chat. We will check the chat, but I'm like 55 minutes. If there's no questions, I'm dipping. I'm just letting you know. All right. So going into you. So I think I saw your episode with Dave, of all people. Great episode, by the way, guys. And you talked about this. Where you're like, okay, as an energy dominant, you're trying to cram all of your time. Like, can you like summarize that again? And then like,
so it's this weird balance of having double masculine saviors. So like my saviors are NINTE, they're both masculine. And so there's this heavy push in kind of the efficiency of things, but also the narrowing down, and understanding, like, and I would like to say like honoring the space that is time. And so there's this heavy dynamic of honoring the space at its time and using it in the best workable way possible with my TE. And, as we were all addicted to our saviors, that is basically the programming that runs my day. And so what I'm always kind of seeing is, throughout my week, it's not so much about having a schedule, but it's like I'm having blocks of time that are allotted to certain things. And sometimes there's a better way to manipulate those. And sometimes they can move a little bit, and that's okay. But I was telling someone the other day that, like, Friday is always my laundry day, because my stupid laundry just takes a long ass time, and so it just rarely, I hate doing it, but it's like, okay, you have to do it. And my Friday is the best span of time where I don't have other things to do, where I can kind of like get that done and make it happen. Yeah. And so I don't like, if someone tries to move laundry day or wants to schedule something last minute, I'm like, no, I can't move this around, because I know that volume of time isn't available anywhere else in my schedule. And so it's just easier and more efficient and easier for me if I just don't, and so I think that kind of heavy NT without so much of like the SF is kind of what leads to like that kind of hyper focus that you're talking about, but at least the vibe of that, even if I don't like, comparing to some other people, I definitely don't feel as though I am like the most focused person or the most, productive person always. Because it's like I still have that sensory as a demon, but I definitely am good at working the blocks of time and allotting time to things I think is important. So
okay, so this is my question, because I'm info dominant in the OP system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So okay, cool.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was. So okay, so I would say I feel like I waste a ton of time. So where do you think the info doms in your life, or like, for example, me, because you've talked to me at least a few times, it's like, where are we getting stuck in time maximization or whatever?
Oh, that's so interesting. So the info doms, I know, it's like they're just kind of not worried about it. It's just more like, yeah, like I'll get things done, or sometimes I have to work a little bit harder, or sometimes I'm just going to take like a double nap today, screw it, whatever. And it's more just like this, it'll balance out vibe. And the information is more like, okay, but like this stuff is serious, like get with it. And for me, what is serious is the game of me preserving energy. And so the little things will like take me off, like when it comes to that energy side. And I think it's the same with like the info doms, like the little things of like people, they're like not respecting the information, or things not being considered serious can kind of get to them. But I don't think I would really see it as a deficit with like the time, because I think you guys really do the time thing in a much more sustainable way, I guess you could say. At least for you. I couldn't live that way, but I appreciate someone who can just be like, yeah, it's okay. I'll make the time work as I need to going forward.
Right. It's so funny. You said all that, and it's like, I know I'm probably not going to change my behavior at all based on what you just said. Like, it's ridiculous.
I don't think you need to,
I think I need to. I'm
okay.
Need to be the best. I've said it publicly. I'm going to be Mr. Beast. I don't know why I said that to Dave. That was a mistake. Now I'm DE obligated.
Hey, now you are. Yep.
I'm obligated. So
and you said it again. So
I said it twice. Yeah. Now it's so for me, what's funny, and it's actually funny because Gary Vee is info dominant technically, but he gives me that energy dom vibe where it's like, like he talks about speed a lot, right? Where it's like,
yes, yeah.
Like, it's like everything, like if you have an hour, you need to be doing what like most people take 4 hours to do.
Yeah.
So my question to you then is like, how are you pushing yourself that fast? Like, I cannot push myself that fast for a long period of time. And it seems like even when I met you through Snug, you felt like you were moving that fast the whole time.
I wouldn't say I'm moving. I'm definitely not moving that fast, but I'm moving at a consistent speed over time, 100%. Okay. And so I'm not doing the like go super hard and then like take your foot off the wheel. Like I'm not going 100 to 0. I'm maintaining 50% the whole entire time, you know? But that also means if something requires more energy, if something requires 60%, then I get real nervous about like having to make up with the 40%, you know? And so I'm always trying to maintain that 50% over time, because I'm like, I can manage this. You know, I can't manage the big pushes, and then like that's it seems like too much. And it seems like the infodoms can be like, all right, let's just go all in, especially the ones who have SE too. They're just like, yeah, let's freaking go. You know, it's not like, it doesn't feel like a big deal to them.
No, it's well, I can't speak for SE. I can speak for myself. It's just because you, like, for me, it's because I procrastinated and now I have to do everything at once. It's just a panic. It's not even like a positive thing. It's like I waited till the last minute. It's like school. It's like you waited till the last minute to study for the test, and now you gotta cram like all night.
Yeah.
That's the feeling, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't even think it's like, it's not preserving energy, because then you're exhausted, and then you gotta take a break. It's just not good. It's just not good. But no, I think it's genuinely, and I mean this, I genuinely think it's admirable that you're able to do that, like, consistently, like, to the point that it's like, even though I'm not a part of your life, like, in a significant way, it's like I can still tell, right? Because you carry, like, how do I word this? The way you structured everything from your Snug to your YouTube channels, the boundaries are hyper clear of like, this is where my time clock starts and ends, and then after this, I have something else important to do, so get the fuck out of my face. You know, I think that's cool. You know,
I'm glad that, I mean, I guess I am glad that kind of comes across. And it's like, I think also when younger in my life, I had a problem with defining those boundaries for myself. And I had this kind of mentality of like, well, if I can make it happen, then I should. You know, if it's, especially if it was related to other people, if it's like, oh, if I can solve their problem, if they're, you know, missing a member to do this kind of a thing and I can do it, well, okay, like I should do it because I can, you know, and that's that blast play talking. And that was a really hard, long loop of a cycle to get through. I remember I was taking a lot of credits in college, and I had like all these like ensembles and stuff like that that I felt like I had to play with because I was on a scholarship for this, you know, this school, whatever. And I remember getting to the weekend when there was like nothing that I had to do, like obligation wise. And like the second it got to be like that time on Friday, I would just turn off my phone for the entire weekend because I didn't want anyone to contact me. And like I just wanted to like completely retreat because it was so hard to not like help with the thing if I was able to like fix it. But it's like if they couldn't ask me, then like I wouldn't have that obligation and I wouldn't have to say no. So that was a long, you know, piece of life. But then I realized that that was just not sustainable, and so eventually grew out of that. Thank goodness.
So how are you dealing with that now? Like, and so this is me projecting. I'm assuming people are in your DMs asking for stuff all the time. That's my projection. So how are you, like, I mean, other than the boundaries, like on the public end, like, how are you dealing with that?
So I kind of have defined in my mind, like what I will say yes to and what I won't say yes to. And so if it's like, well, first I limited how people can contact me. Like I have very like limited ways. Like I don't have an Instagram. I don't have a Twitter, like I said. And so the amount of outlets of things coming in is, you know, throttled down, which was really important for me. And then I also, it's like, I can't just respond to everyone's like desire to have a conversation like as much as I would like to. There's just not be enough hours in the day. But if someone has something that they're working on that I think, you know, has value, like for instance, like people who have YouTube channels, like I put it in my mind that like I say yes to people who have like YouTube channels that they're genuinely working on and like trying to build, you know, because it's like, yeah, like, you know, that's FI important to me. And like I that process excites me, you know? And so I'm like I say yes to those things, but like pretty much other things, I'm like, those are no's, or I don't get in depth into those conversations, just because it can be a time drain and you have to set boundaries. So
yeah, I'm slowly learning that. I can't. I don't have NI, so maybe that's the way you guys want to explain it. I don't know what I was expecting, but like all of a sudden, I'm like, it's like I don't know why I'm surprised. I'm like, why am I messaging all these people all the time?
Yeah, you got peeps now.
This is ridiculous. Like, and now they're like, why didn't you message me back? I'm like, it's ridiculous.
Yep, you got sucked into the hole.
Oh,
but it's good. It's like you can draw the line at any time. And I think that's important for people to realize, because I think sometimes it can feel like an avalanche of like, oh, I'm doing all these things and I'm saying all this and I'm trying to be involved in all these ways. And now people are expecting things of, you know, whatever. And it's like, bro, it's up to you. You can draw the line wherever you want to, and you can just dip out, you know?
Really good. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about the thing. This is like, this is your FI to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is your FI. So what, no?
Well, yes. Well, yes, I can explain that further. Do you want me to talk about it?
I think we should talk about the thing. What's the thing?
Okay. Well, so there was a thing that was brewing in my mind for a while as it relates to the impending doom of automation, which I think is great. Like, I love AI and I love the robots, but at the same time, I knew that was going to create a big void in some area. And I was like, there's this thing that can be made that would help with the void that's going to come. And the answer for that really ended up being through learning about type and learning about what FE really was and the value of human connection, and how that's going to be kind of like the most valuable thing of the future, because the level of automation is going to be so much higher that having like authentic conversations with people, if you're not getting them at the grocery store, if you're not getting them, you know, when you go check out of a hotel, if you're not getting them in all these places where we've been used to them, there's going to be a greater void in that area. And so the idea of Snug was birthed out of that. And the idea that like, okay, like, well, what is value? You know, like people pay for value, right? Mm-hmm. And like, it doesn't matter if it's like, and it's with scarcity, right? Like, that's why diamonds are valuable, because there is less of them available. Nice. And so the same thing is like with human connection and time, and like the value of conversation, the value of consultation, the value of the one-on-one of a person, and making that process easier for people to do. And so I realized that basically to have, you know, video sessions that were scheduled and paid for and have video combined, there wasn't a platform that did all three. Like, you had to integrate separate parts, and like, it wasn't a one thing. And my NI and TE could just not be on board with all the potential chaos that would happen if I was using 3 separate platforms to do something that I wanted to do. Because I'm like, well, what happens if I reschedule? Or what happens if something cancels? How will the payment thing know if this is going to happen? And then how will this like be able, and like that brought up a level of like anxiousness. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this fits into this thing, right? And then the thing was born in my brain, which was Snug. And so I've been working on that for the past few years. And at first it was really scary, because I was like, you know, I was looking at this thing, I didn't really understand what it was. And I was like, oh, like, this is a platform. Like, this is a platform as a service. This is a technology startup. This is not my field, you know? How would I basically, there was a big piece of me that was like, you know, this isn't even for you, because it's outside of your, like, this is outside of your wheelhouse in a lot of ways. It's a great idea. You know, I never doubted the concept and that it would work, but I'm like, actually making it SE real, I'm like, this is totally out of your wheelhouse. And so I realized at some point, I'm like, okay, this is big, but like, I can, you know, do this. Other people do this. And so I was like, well, I need to get some help with like someone else on board, you know, to do this with me. And I ended up finding a person who, it was funny. It was like, I was already doing it YouTube at that point, and they were just looking to collaborate with a YouTuber on some stuff. And they were a software developer, and they lived like right by me. And so it was like, hey, you want to do some stuff with YouTube? Like, I want to like build this thing. Are you down? And they totally understood it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, they actually understand. And that was such a big thing too. Cause I was like, how do I get someone on board with this thing? I felt like my personal baby idea. And, you know, give it to them. And like, what if they squash it? Or what if they think it's stupid, you know, or what if they like, and like, they didn't. So that was great. But the whole thing was so interesting, because I really had to separate it from my FI. Like, it was very much a part of my FI, but it's like, I almost was trying to protect it too much, because at the end of the day, I had to realize like, this is just an idea. Like, this is just an idea that may or may not work. It may grow to be huge. It may not. You know, people may hate it. They may love it. Either way, I have to separate it from like myself. This is just an idea. And by doing that, it had helped me to push it further without it being so personal to me. And that was kind of like a part of it too. So this is kind of the overview.
Yeah, no. So if you don't mind, so what I'd love to do is like revisit that. I'm peacocking sleep processing, guys. You know, it's last year. Okay. I'm going to pretend to do sleep processing here. Or it's like, I kind of want to revisit it and just break it down from an OP perspective. Because I think there's a lot here. That's when I heard that, I was like, this is, you know. So first, just the inception of the idea itself. Because you shared, like, but why was it NI, do you feel, that created this? And like, what, like, can you describe the NI's process from, Yeah,
so the NI is always the NI is always looking to what it believes will be the case in the future. It's always looking to what it thinks should happen, right? And when you're thinking about a business or a business like idea, right? I've never really ever once thought about like, well, what's happening right now? What's relevant right today? I'm always thinking about like, I know it's going to take a while to build. You know, these things don't happen overnight. I'll be lucky for it to be like starting to grab some real traction in like 3 to 5 years, you know? So what's going to be valuable in 3 to 5 years? And so that's kind of where this triangulation started happening. And it's like, I feel as though NI is always storing these bits of information in these files. And sometimes we don't even realize why they're being grouped together. We're just like, yeah, there's something that's like these random things are in this file, but they're all together for some reason. And all of a sudden you get one paper in there, it makes the whole file just like seal up. And you're like, perfect. Now the concept is complete and I understand how it can be used. But so much of that is happening in the background all the time. But yeah.
Do you remember that process, like before you came up with that idea? Like what were those files that you were gathering? Do you remember that at all?
It was like robot shit. Like it was like knowing where AI was going. It was knowing like problems as they relate to monetization. A big piece of it was like seeing people who were on YouTube or had these other kind of businesses that were being slaves to basically AdSense and like sponsorships, and they were having to like sell out for like they had great content, and then they were just like, oh yeah, by the way, buy this special face cream. And I just looked at it and I was like, God, that's so embarrassing. Like, you know, it's like, I know they don't want to be talking about that thing, but they're like, you know, they're trying to make a living. And I realized that like, if you look in the comment section, all these people are just like, they want to connect with that person, you know? And so I'm like, you know, it's not up to us, like what is valuable to someone else. And like, if your time is valuable to someone else, like, cool, great. You know, now you don't have to sell lotion on your YouTube video.
Wow. This is fucking
all these things are coming together. Yeah.
This is fucking fascinating me. Like, cause you know, I'm deep into the Gary V sauce right now.
Yeah.
Okay? And we know his type, right? So the SC versus the NI contrast is like hitting my head right now, because in like, when it comes to the business perspective, he will look at that, and he said this publicly like multiple times. He'll be like, oh, well, that's just the way to do it, because that's what's working right now. Right? You need to do the sponsorships, and you need to do like, because that's just what works right now.
Right. Oh, interesting. I haven't even heard him say that, but yeah, I got it.
And he just puts a period on that. Like, he is not worried about like 3 to 5 years. Well, he kind of is, like, that's why he talks about like voice and automation and stuff like that. But it's like, when it comes to that, like the practical advice that we were talking about offline, it's like, that is literally, he's like, well, that's what you got to do. Just execute on that, and then you're done. Like,
grind hard, like put out, like output. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So do you remember the moment when I don't know if you said it in the story. So if you did, I apologize. Do you remember when it clicked? Because you said there's a paper file when NI. So do you remember the day Snug clicked for you, so to speak?
I don't remember the date. I remember where I was. I remember I was like in my living room looking at blank gazing into a shelf, and I was thinking about something with FE, and then like all of a sudden like the FE paper like flew into that file, and I was like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
and like really seeing how human connection was like this component of like such a value base, you know, and yeah, so I remember where I was, but yeah, I don't remember what it was.
You know, really interesting. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. The next thing about that story that stood out to me was so in the OP system, you're double activated on the DE. Right? And so part of you were using a lot of the language. I was like, I did not hear you say this anywhere before. So it's like you're like, I wasn't sure if I was the right person to do this. So it's like it was like almost like you're having like an identity crisis. Like how have you been dealing with that these days? Like I know you said you detach yourself from the idea. Do you feel like you've built up that identity though, where you're like, I am the right person for this?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think something that it was a little bit of like tribe help. I think that helped me with that because I was listening to a talk given by Alexis Ohanian, who is the founder of Reddit. Okay. And he's a big VC in, you know, California, and he you know, and he's always looking for like up and coming things. And so I was just listening to what he was saying about startups and like people's ideas. And one thing he said, he was like, you know, I'm not looking for the people who are serial entrepreneurs with technology. He's like some of the best people who I've invested into have had no experience in tech. And he's like, one of the people was like, or he's like the two people that like was one of his best startups were like dishwashers at Domino's or something like that. And he's like, and they had the best idea because they understood their industry so well that, you know, it's not just someone who's like, oh, I want to make a business, so I have to find a problem. Like they were in something, they understood a problem, and then their idea was just so much better because like that was their life. It was so real to them, you know? And I was like, okay, like, all right. So like, anyway, like, it's like kind of like that permission thing. Like, okay, so anyone's allowed to do this, right? Like we can just, you know, and it's like, I didn't know that, but it was, I think, nice to hear it from someone else to kind of give that added incentive to like, okay, you can actually move forward on this. And I remember telling myself like every day, like I'd be like, I'm starting it, like this is going to be a tech startup, like I'm starting a tech startup, like I'm like every day, and just to kind of brainwash it into my head that like, yes, this is happening. So
and what's cool about that story, if you allow me to type-splain, okay, and what's really cool about that story is that like it's literally the consume that got you out of that.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's like you can, so that's cool to me. So that's really good. Have you run into like your demons? Well, the DI we've just talked about, but like let's say the animals, right? Like, have you run into your demons while building Snug? Like what's?
Yeah, I would say like, so before Snug, like I was an OP, and I was definitely trying to like learn more about balance, and like it's ironic how this all ends up working out, but like I was like learning a lot about what it was to balance and stuff like that. I started to enter into the season of Snug, and I'm like, I know I'm about to be doubling down on my saviors. Like I know this is about to happen, and I was like, well, because I know it's going to happen, I'm just gonna like do it so hard that like I SF swing and like get some crap out of this, like that, like I like force a tidal wave in like a period of time just to like get it over with, you know? And so I was preparing for that. And at the same time, it was just like, I was going like heavy in on NT, like really not giving it to my consume or to my SF or anything at all. And like, sure enough, like you get that tidal wave and you're like, this is not what I expected. I mean, it's like, it is what I expected, but like, I didn't know, like, oh, like this sucks. But at the same time, it's like, I feel so much more connected with my SF now because of it that I'm just like, dang, like that was a good choice.
Like, okay, so do you have like examples of like what like you're doing with the SF now? I mean, I saw your website's great. I love the Snug website a lot. Like, were you part of that design, or like what was?
Yeah, so well, like the front end of the site that you see, like that's all me that
Oh,
did
cool.
like that side, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm used to doing that kind of stuff for work anyway. But and yeah, then my business partner did the actual coding of how the platform works.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, so but like the SF more is, I would say, related to me and my comfort of this is how I feel about something,
Okay.
and like screw you if it doesn't work for you, you know? Because my default has always been like I have to, you know, do what works for the collective. You know,
Yeah.
it's not about me, like it's not about the things I like, whatever. I have to do with what works for the collective. And through all of this, I realized that like giving to myself and what is important to me is like the most valuable thing, to not have to deal with it on the back end, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like, and that is a part of honesty. And I think it's like, as TEs, we tend to like not want to be honest with our FX. It feels very personal, and like we're like,
Yeah.
it's not like that relevant, like, you know, whatever. We can kind of just like pretend like that didn't really happen, you know. I don't, it's that important that I feel this way about this thing, you know. And then you just realize that like, no, like that sucks way worse if
Yeah.
you continue to live like that, instead of just being like, yeah, well, this is how I feel about this, and this is kind of what I want, and if you don't like it, like, sorry, you know.
Yeah.
That's okay. So, and it really is okay, and it's okay for someone to not like it, and it's okay for you to express that you do like it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Really cool. Okay. I think I have two on the two other major things related to Snug.
Mhm.
That I think within the context of OP, right? Or no, one within the context of OP, and then just a curious question.
Mhm.
From an OP perspective, I know when we were doing our prep like a while back, I asked you who were the early adopters of Snug,
Mhm.
and you mentioned it was people with FE. And I was like, oh, this is very fascinating. So I was curious if you could
Yeah.
recount why you think that's the case.
Yeah. So there's this one person who sticks out to me in particular, who this is like, you're teaching a new concept to people, you know,
Mhm.
and so there's some people who kind of click with it, people who don't, people who excuse me, understand the model, people who are like trying to understand it.
Mm.
And I remember we reached out to this kid who has a he's not a kid, like he's an adult, who has a channel about Legos, and he basically shows people these tours of his like he shows people like Lego collections. And I didn't know anything about Legos. I didn't know how much people were into Legos. It's a big thing, come to find out. And they're
Yeah.
really expensive too. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how you're a parent paying for freaking Legos. Like, wow. Anyway, but so he heard about Snug, and immediately he's like, oh yeah, like this would be great. He's like, so many of these kids like want to see my personal like Lego collection, like go on a tour, and like
Mhm.
their parents are looking for them to, like, to give the kids something to do, and like they would love to use like to book me this way. And like he understood the value the value of the tribe. Like he understood what the tribe really liked and wanted. And I think because of that, it was easy for him to kind of see like how this would work, because I think as sometimes as FIs we get kind of weird, like, oh, like I'm not valuable, like, you
Yeah.
know, like you like want to like I can't really do that much, you know. And we take it so personally, like the value thing is like very personal. But
Yeah.
as an FE user, he was just like, yeah, like they like this, and so it would suit me to let them, you know, use it in this way. And so yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I did not ask you this during prep. Who have you seen have the hardest time? Like, and guys, I love all of you in the chat. Okay. I love all of you watching, but I am curious. Who is like what type, if you had to put it into either OP terms or MBTI terms, like that's having the like hardest time picking up on what's going on?
Um, I would say probably like the FI
Mm.
SE, FI, SI access.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, but especially like anyone who I would kind of categorize as like FISI or FISE or SEFI, because it's like, one, it's like they're looking at what is like, they're just looking at it differently. So it's like they're not using FE, and they're just also looking at what they're currently doing that's like doing well, you know? And so they're not really looking to restructure necessarily how they're doing something by looking at it through a different way. Doesn't mean that they can't or they won't, but they're and they're also like, it seemed like for a lot of them, the thing was, it's like, oh, like, why would my conversation, like why is what I have to say valuable to anyone else? It was almost like they just didn't believe it, you know?
Wow.
And
okay.
And I would go through like their comments sometimes, and I'd be like, look at all these people who want to talk to you, like literally are saying like, I would love to talk to you about this. And they're just like, oh yeah, but you know, like I'm not really like that good at, and I'm just like, oh, it's so interesting. Like they weren't seeing it the way that I was, in terms of like how they were being valued. So
wow. Yeah, so it's almost like, it's like, it's FI, right? It's like you're just not, it's like your value is completely self for positive. Yeah, it's for better or for worse. Have you seen people with FI like pick it up super fast? I'm sure there are exceptions, right?
Oh yeah, I mean there definitely is, and it's like, I think if they get it on, if it gets on board with their own FI, like if they're like, oh, I really actually like doing this, or if they feel useful to the tribe, if they're kind of like counteracting that TE, and they're like, oh, I can be useful to people if I do this, like then it kind of gives them a drive to like do it as well. So I remember I had someone with FI say to me, I was like, well, what would make you want to get on the platform? And they were just like, well, if I knew people were waiting for me on there, I didn't want to show up because I wouldn't want them to, you know, like not have me there. Like they actually wanted me to be there, you know? And so like knowing that there was like, that they would be valued for being there, like knowing that it was actually a use to people because people would already be there was what helped them.
Okay, really good. And then I have one last question related to Snug. So, and I think you did answer this, but I'm just curious, okay? Because my impression of what NI is that you guys are always planning like 10 years out, especially with masculine NI. Y'all have these 10-year plans, makes me look fucking dumb. I'm just like, oh my God. So is Snug a setup? Is my any question. Is this a setup? Am I going to set up for something bigger? Is it going to be like the Apple situation? Is kind of like what I'm thinking of. It's like Apple started with, what did Apple start with? Computers. And now it's this whole thing. Like, is that what Snug, do you see that trajectory for you?
I mean, in a way, yes. But it's like, Snug will always be Snug. But it's, the idea is to have it develop more into like a personal monetization platform based on that person's needs and like how they choose to like monetize non-physical things. And so that's kind of like and I would say like NI is less of like a 10-year plan. It's more like a 10-year like trajectory. It's like, I'm going down this road no matter what, you know? It's going to be really hard to like throw me off that path. Now we might not know every sensory detail on the way there, but it's like, we're going down that road. And so I would say where we are now is definitely the first step on that trajectory. So
really cool. No, I'm super excited. And just in passing, I think this is the part that excited me because I don't got money like that, guys. So apparently Snug is free to set up, right?
Yeah, it's totally free to have an account and like test it out and like try it out. There's only like a platform fee if you actually make money on it, and so it doesn't cost anything to check it out. And it's like, oh, if you don't make money, well then like it's fine, you know. It doesn't do anything. So I mean, I have been the longest user of it, which has been really kind of cool because I got to really test it. Like the beta test was me and you know people from my YouTube channel, and it was wild because I'm like, wow, I'm using this thing that like I put so much time into and it's working and this is crazy. And so it's been really cool.
Yeah, and it was great to meet you through it. Like,
Yeah.
so really awesome. So we're gonna do 10 more minutes of like doc stuff, and then we're gonna do Q&A. So guys, like I said, if you have questions now,
I've seen some coming through. Yeah.
So there's a few miscellaneous OP stuff that I think I'm curious about.
Oh, cool.
Let's start with the consume. Let the consume last, Lindsay. We got to talk about it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there's been a stigma against it. So
okay. Tell me all about it, because I haven't heard it.
Well, I don't know about the fucking stigma. Let's be real, but I've heard through the grapevine that there's a stigma against it.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, so one of the notes I had related to it in relation to prep was you actually like consume last because it helps with time management. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I recently did a video called like No FOMO, and it's like where I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. And I think consume last plays into that a lot, because with consume last, there's never really some shiny object that I'm like, ooh, I want to go do that, or like I want to go consume that or take that in, or there's this new, movie someone was talking about, or there could be a fun thing over, like, it's just like my brain doesn't fire that way. Like that's not what gets me going. And so I think that helps. Where I see a lot of people struggle is because of that. And they're like, I don't want to miss out on like what that might be, or how that experience could be, or that might be fun. And so they'll sacrifice kind of their time just to like explore whatever that is. And to have that like consume time. And so that's never been a battle for me. And so I'm grateful for that. And in that way, obviously there's downsides on the other side.
So I mean, talk to me a little bit about that. My time management is terrible. Okay. So like you said your brain is literally just not even worried about it. I guess what is the downside? That's actually my perspective on consume last at this point. I'm being dead ass.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what the downside is. Like, yes, there are anecdotes and there's what the theory is. But it's like when I talk to people with consume last, I'm like, oh, this sounds great. I'm being so serious. So it's like, what are the actual downsides in your actual life?
So it's funny. I actually made a video about this. I probably won't post it for a few weeks, so you guys will get to hear it kind of first. But like, so I had an experience the other day that was like very, it was where my consume last really showed, but in like a negative way, and made my life hell for a few hours. And it was, I helped like run a production studio for video like 2 days a week in like my normal job. And there's usually, we have camera people, we have people who are on like a switcher for the cameras to like, who are shooting the best angles of like what's happening. And the girl who's usually doing that had to leave early the other day. And so I'm usually at my laptop, like doing other stuff, but because she had to leave, I was like, oh, I'll hop in, I'll run the switcher for like the next few hours, no big deal. So the thing about that is like, you're constantly having to pay attention to what's going on. What is the best camera angle? Like, okay, like we're getting a close up of this, like this food that's coming up this way. And now this person's talking. So we have to switch over here. And so it's taking a lot of attention with like what's going on, It's literally you're just having to pay attention to what's going on. That's it. And in order for you to do something. And so for me, the process of taking in the new sensory, in order for me just to do this thing, it felt like I was falling asleep at the wheel while driving. Like, that feeling where like you're like, you keep having to jolt yourself awake because it's like, you're just, you're going out, you're going to sleep, right? That was like what my brain was just constantly wanting to like space out, go somewhere else, start thinking about this. And I had to be constantly like, oh no, crap, like switch the camera. Damn it, Lindsay. Like, no, like pay attention, and it was so hard. And it's not like we were doing something boring. Like it was, the thing that this person was doing was pretty interesting. And like, I just could not keep my attention on the sensory, what was really actually happening. And so I think we do have some of those kind of ADD characteristics. But it's not because we're wanting to do something else. It just feels like our brain has had too much. Like I've had too much sensory. Like I just can't, I just need to close it off so I'm not having to think about or see like more of the new. And it made it really hard to do that job.
That is so fascinating. I'm officially looking forward to your conversation with Gray then, because I think like that's worth elaborating on. I'm gonna let you know. I'm not her mom, okay? I'm gonna let her decide if she wants to talk about that. Gray, if you're listening to this, please, okay? All right. Now, that's so interesting though, because I have the opposite problem. It's like I have the call it quote unquote. I don't know if I have ADD or not, but it's like I have that tendency. But it's literally I'm being literally distracted, right, by what's going on. It's like there's like a flickering light, and I'm like, you know. Whereas with you, it's like you said, it's too much, and so your mind is
I'm like getting sucked up into some other like alter space, you know.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, so again, Gray, please. Okay. Finally, and then we're going to do Q&A in the next 5 minutes, guys. All right. So going back to FI, so one thing you mentioned during the prep was, because I was curious, because I was like, I think at the time, I was like, okay, well, it's double activated DE for you. So FI is the biggest demon, at least in the OP system. So I was probing, like, what are you doing with your FI? And one thing you said that was fascinating was you actually said you're willing to emote about a few things as long as it's in your box, right? So you talked about, you know, the mistreatment of animals as an example, the value of typology. I guess my question is, how do you determine what's in your box, first of all? And then it's like at what point do you feel comfortable emoting about it? Because like even if it's in your box, you're not emoting about everything.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I feel like even since I talked to you last, like I've had to go even deeper on my FI and like the darkness and the pain that can be FI, but like that's been a really good thing because it's like, and this is kind of where the NI comes in. It's like, despite the circumstance, the physical circumstance, like when you've experienced like extreme points in your FI, whether that be like extreme happiness or like extreme sadness or extreme like, and the thing is, I always felt as though I hadn't like experienced like that outer lying spectrum of really that much, because I was always very even keeled. Like my TE was always rationalizing like, oh, you don't need to feel that way, like it's not that important, like, you know. And so I would almost not let myself experience those far reaching points of where my FI could go. And I feel like those are the places where you really learn what it is like to experience that realm of emotion. And then it's a lot easier for the NI to connect like, oh, I know, even though I haven't been in this situation that someone else has been in, like I know what extreme pain feels like, you know, or I know what extreme, like whatever it is. And so it's almost like allowing yourself to go there is what allows you to be able to emote. And I think like, you know, there have always been topics throughout my life where I'm like, I can lock on to this. Like, this is kind of like it almost felt more of like a childish version of FI, because it's like the animals thing, you know, it's like, I've always really loved animals. And like, if people are like mistreating animals, I just want to be like, screw you, you know, like I can, like, this is like one of the things that my FI has locked onto, but it was more like just like a value principle versus like an actual place of emotion, even though I was upset about it.
Yeah.
So I feel like my progression at least has been like allowing myself to experience the more extreme emotions. And I did do that with the animal stuff. Like I did push myself to like watch some of the worst things so that like I could really feel how much that affected me. But it was almost a good feeling because it's like, okay, now I feel so much more solid in my belief and value towards this because like I felt this way about it. And so that kind of, I guess, multiply. So
wow, yeah. And I'm struggling with that. Every time I think, I'm rambling, but yeah, for me, intense emotions, whether it's me expressing them or other people expressing them, I have the hardest time with it. Like that is a demon. It's definitely a demon for me. It's like, if you're like volatile with your emotions, like you can go die metaphorically.
Yeah.
Okay. You can metaphorically go somewhere with your life. right? So it's really cool that, you know, this sounds like this was a recent realization though.
And it definitely, I think, has like NI solidified, and like it has SC come to reality and NI solidified a lot recently. And I think too, is like the thing that we have with TE is like TE's like, well, if I can't fix it, there's nothing for me to do here. Like, get me the heck out as soon as I can, you know? And I think a place too, a lot of people who have had FE have helped me understand, and through like my own journey as well, is like, you know, like we always say like, okay, those people don't need a fix, but it's just like just being like, yeah, like that really sucks, and like, dang, like I'm sorry, like if there's anything you need, but it's like, it's our own internal self that is like perpetuating this circle of like complete BS, because we're like, we're really feeling like, oh, if I can't solve it, then I'm not doing the right thing, and I'm not making it work for the tribe, and then it's like, and the emotions feel weird, and like we're circling ourselves on that thing, like, but we're on that little turnstile alone, you know. That other person is like having their emotions, they're off somewhere else, and we're over here dying because we're like, this is the worst thing ever, I don't know how to fix the thing. And then you realize that like you can just step off that and just be like, hey, I see you there, this sucks, if you need anything, I'm here. And it's like, we don't have to be on that little turnstile driving ourselves crazy, which is really, I felt like what I have done for most of my life.
Yeah. I've done that too. Let's not talk about that, but I've done that very recently. Okay. And with that happy note, let's go ahead and transition over to Q&A. So guys, if I only see 4 questions, we're doing 4 questions and I'm getting the hell out of here. But Lindsay, truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, so let's go ahead and start. There's a lot of people saying hi, all that cute shit. Love you guys. All right.
We love you.
Let's start with Lovacy. Hi. I like your avatar, actually. Have you guys seen anyone with lead feminine TI? Sure. Oh, no, lead feminine TI, sorry. So that would
lead feminine TI.
Actually, I don't think I have.
Like personally or in the docs?
I think personally is the insinuation here.
I don't know anyone. Do I? I think it's like I don't know a lot of people, so a very small circle. My my business partner is TI first, but he is masculine TI.
Yeah.
So
like?
not.
I know it's a huge channel change.
It's. I was so interested in it when I first met him that I had to solve the ISTP dilemma, because I just like could not figure out what the heck they were doing with FE. But it's like you realize TI is very strong, masculine TI is like very punchy with like what it knows to be true, what it understands. But like both having, like, I have feminine FI as a demon, he has feminine FE as a demon. Like, just imagine our demon F conversations. Like, it is all kinds of just like craziness, but it's okay. We have like the masculine T to like balance it out. Yeah. But it's really funny because it's like, I'm like, wow, like we're getting really bitchy right now. Like, you know.
Yeah. That's so funny. But okay, but for the record, you have not seen anyone with this in your life.
Not that my feminine sensory brain can recall.
Yes. Okay. So speaking of feminine sensory brain, we have Steve the INTP, funny guy. Check out his YouTube channel.
Very funny guy.
What's your feminine or visual, I guess, modality like from the inside?
You have to add from the inside in there. So I guess like my visual tester, it's very much simulation oriented in terms of like, I'm constantly, if I'm thinking about something that's like coming up or in the future, it's just straight visual. Like I'm not hearing a narrative. I'm just seeing the thing play out in front of me as if it was real right now. You know, like that's how I feel it like impact me. Which is great, because if you're trying to like prepare for something, it can be great to like be able to almost see it so clearly that it's like it feels like it's real. I was actually telling someone the other day that like when I was doing lots of music stuff, that I could practice completely like visually, like in my head. Like I could practice like what I had to play on my bass and like I could go and play it, because it's like I was rehearsing it with the music in my head visually. Wow. And so like when I went to go play it, it was as if I had literally been practicing it in the reality the whole time. But
yeah,
but it was just like the visual simulation of it. And so that's, I guess, like a piece of what it's like from the inside. And I'm also like, I think with like the auditory stuff, that even though I am blast first and blast play, in most, if I'm not being called on to blast, I'm like I think I'm more quiet than like an auditory person can often be, because it's like I'm seeing so many things, and like the words on it are kind of like second, you know? And so like, unless I've kind of like pre-processed something, it's like I'm not speaking on it yet. And it's like the words don't seem like a necessity, I guess you could say. So, and Shannon had talked about that once or twice, that the visuals, the FMs actually tend to be more of the like even if they're extroverted, they can have a little bit more of the introversion like characteristics, because they're not hitting the sensory, and they're not and like that visual tester thing. So anyway, that's a little bit.
Did you experience any visuals during this conversation so far?
Yeah, like when you were asking me about certain like so like a lot of the questions you're asking have referenced things like from like the past, or like how I've come to certain conclusions or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like when I'm trying to recall that data, it's just like I'm seeing it. Like that's how when you asked me like when did it click for you with Snug, I was like, or like when was it? I was like, well, I know where I was standing, you know, like I can see where I was, or I can, and as I'm traveling through my mind, I can see what was happening in life, like as I'm recalling the data.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, really good. Next, and we're probably going to get in trouble for this one.
Let's go.
Let's talk about the drugs.
Oh.
Okay. We know you got it. Right? You live in Florida. So use cannabis. So can you explain how it affects your functions? I'll start because it's a simple one for me. I do not, except on social occasions, and I tend not to like it. I just, yeah. And I don't know if edibles count as cannabis, but like I've done edibles once. That was a weird experience. It makes me just kind of weird. I get paranoid. I get more sensorily like attuned. It's just a weird, like, I don't know, like how to feel. Your turn.
So I wouldn't say that so I've had periods of my life where I have smoked consistently. And then also periods of my life where I haven't. It's always been one of those things that I've never really felt like I've needed it either way. But I felt like there's been times in my life where I've had a deeper appreciation for the experience that it has given me. And so like I will like occasionally like here and there now, but like very, very rare. In the past, like I remember when I was younger, like it was interesting you said sensory, because I remember using cannabis when I think it's like even back in high school. And I remember just for the first time feeling as if I was able to focus on reality, like what was actually physically in front of me, and just realizing the beauty that was surrounding me in real life, like in the present moment, instead of having my brain off in cyberspace somewhere and just being like, wow, like I've been missing out on so much that's real because I haven't been paying attention. Also consume lust. So I think it kind of had helped me at points to tune into the physical reality of like what was real. And I think sometimes with people it does the inverse. Like I think sometimes for people who have sensory as a dominant function, it will help them tune out and kind of like go visit abstract land a little bit. So I think that's kind of interesting, but that's just a theory.
Yeah, really good. And guys, don't hit up my DMs. I'm not gonna smoke with you. I'm sorry. All right, next question. Top YouTube. Oh, this is good. Top YouTube creator tip from your experience, Lindsay.
Well, the one out of the Gary Vee playbook of you have no excuse not to answer every comment. That was one I think that really helped change my channel a lot and engage people and also get to know people. Like you know, who am I to think that I don't want to get to know more people on the internet? And I've ended up, you know, forming these relationships with people who I've gotten to know through my YouTube channel. And like, there's so many cool people out there. Like, it would have been a shame not to have gotten to know them. So I would say that would probably be my top one.
Nice, really good. Yeah. I don't have any guys. I'm gonna DE pass. I'm not a top.
You're developing them.
I really am. I told you guys. Matter of fact, let me flex a little bit. I'm about to dominate this year. I'm telling you, I'm calling it in the NI.
Good.
By the end of the year, y'all gonna be scared. I'm telling you. Okay, and then you can circle back to this question. All right, so back to Lavasi. Love it. Okay, so this is another sensory question. Have you ever seen someone with double activated masculine FE demon?
Well, that means they would have had to have feminine TI as a savior.
Oh, I know Emily.
Emily.
Yeah, Emily in the OP group.
Oh, so then yeah.
So I got one. I don't know about you.
I'm gonna take yours and pretend like it's mine.
Oh my god, yeah, Emily's funny. Okay, so we got one for you, Lavasi. There you go. All right, next is from Eric with the Y. What do you think someone with TI can learn from TE? Good question.
That it's okay for what has been found to be true to work, or as equally like not work, depending on the context it's been using, like that it's being used in. So I see a lot of the TIs, like they'll establish like a certain truth for themselves, and it's usually something they've worked on really hard. Like they've drilled down to the bottom of this TI hole, and they're like, this is the truth, like as it relates to this, you know. And then sometimes like they'll try to like give that very kind of like personal, you know, identity piece to someone who either they're struggling or they care about or whatever, because they're trying to FE provide value, right? And but sometimes depending on the context, the situation, maybe the person's not ready to receive that information yet, and like sometimes the person just kind of like doesn't really care or blows it off, or they try it and it doesn't work for them, right?
Yeah.
And then that can kind of, I think, be a blow to the TI, because they're just like, dang, like I missed the value thing, the thing I was freaking going for with the FE, that didn't work, and like I worked like so hard on this TI, so maybe it's probably their fault that it didn't like, you know, work or whatever. And I guess just really the perspective that like the logic blocks work and sometimes they don't, you know, and like it's okay to like throw in a different one in there and not take the TI as like being the end all. Having kind of that agility of like trying different stuff can really be beneficial. And I think also like TIs working with TEs can be really beneficial, because it's like you're getting two perspectives on the logic, and I think that can be really a good balance too. So
yes, nice, thank you. Next is Nacho Business. I forgot to comment here. I like that.
That's just like, yeah.
What's the most mind-blowing thing you've ever seen, heard, thought about? Lindsay, you go first.
Right? Mind-blowing thing.
The most mind-blowing. I don't know.
Gosh, well, let me try to narrow down that really quick. Okay. You've seen, heard. Okay, so this is where it's hard for me with this question. It's like, I'm so not surprised by things that for my mind to be blown by something, it has to really be regarding my demons. Okay. So, okay, this one's going to sound really stupid, but it's related to my demons. So it's like, you get what you get, right? And I think I actually posted something up about this on my comment section, like a long time ago. Anyway, I wouldn't say it's the most mind-blowing thing, but it's the most mind-blowing thing I can think of right now. And I was remembering this time where I never used to dry my hair. I would always just kind of like wash my hair and like go out like wet. And I was like, whatever, it's not a big deal. Like people don't have wet hair, you know? Yeah. And I remember walking into a Starbucks one time, and this guy who was waiting in line like turned around, looked at me, and he goes, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I was like, what? Like I got shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, like is there something on me? Like what happened? You know, am I bleeding? Like, and he's like, you're all wet. And I was like, I was like, oh yeah, I know. I just took a shower, and then he was like, oh, and I remember just feeling like so drawn back because I was like, did I do something? Like, do people not have wet hair? It was like I was having an SF like crisis in the moment because I was just like, what was that? Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then I remember, so then like years later, I'm thinking about that moment, and somehow I got down the research hole and I found this study about how people see like hair and how it's like they judge, like people will judge like likability to someone's hair. And I remember just being like, is that what happened in that moment? Is like I was doing something that was like on the FE or something like that's like unacceptable to this person, and that therefore that was what was giving me this reaction.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm sure that's like a very strange and abstract answer, but like I remember in the moment being like, that is so bizarre that humans would be like that, and that they would like see something like hair as valuable in a way and like make a judgment based off of it. So I guess you could say like, finding out you need a hairdryer was probably the most mind-blowing thing.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna say this in passing because just in the interest of time, but like this is something I have been tracking about you, and like this is where the whole consume last anecdotes fall apart for me. You do like when you like have a problem, you do research it, like very intensely. I've noticed, right?
Yeah.
Like I think there's some other stuff on your channel where you're talking about like serious scientific papers that I'm like, I don't get it. Oh, there's my music too. But it's like I don't get that. It's like you went super deep. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it'll be in the IJ box though. Like there'll be some reason that I'm like circling this box, or like I'm trying to figure something out, right? And the thing is like having that consume last, like I'll not consume 98% of the time. But then when I want to know something, I'm going to dive so deep into something so that I can find the information I want and then not have to touch it again, And so like being consumed last is almost a driver for wanting to go so hard on figuring something out and like getting the information. Cause it's like, I don't want to be like freaking doing this all day long,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Really good. Short answer, it's not your business. There you go. That's my answer. All right. That's my answer. I don't fucking know. All right, next. Lindsay, are you vegan? And if so, how? I think you are, right? No?
Yes, yeah, I am.
Yep. Yeah, okay. How long?
For about 10 years now. I've been vegan. I was vegetarian for like around 10, 15 years before that. So like large majority of my life. And the vegetarian thing, like what inspired me to go that was different. Like I decided to do that because of more of like the moral FI side. I had a pet duck and I realized I couldn't eat my pet duck, and people ate ducks all the time. Right. And then I'm like, if I had a pet cow, I couldn't. Anyway, it's like, well, then I'm a hypocrite that if I'm doing this. So I just stopped. And then also understanding more about factory farming was in there too. And then I went vegan because I started like learning more about health and, how things affect the body. And I deemed it for me to be the better health decision for my future health. And so that's how I got there.
That's so fascinating. Yeah. Like, even your decision-making process, like one, definitely NI, like the whole simulating out, like if I had a pet cow, like, I'm sorry, I know we have different FIs. I would totally like, and then also like, actually, so what I will say is like the factory farming, like because I don't know if you watched some of that stuff in school, like when you were in like high school, college, like that's when I was exposed to that stuff. And I remember being grossed out and then just forgetting it the next day. Like, so I'm a bad person. Like it
doesn't hit everyone the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. I probably need to revisit that type of stuff. Cause like some of it was legitimately gross. I will say that, so guys, do your consume. Okay. It's kind of fucked up. What's going on? Okay. We'll say that. All right. So next, I think we only have a few more, Lindsay, just to give you a heads up.
Cool.
All right. So what is the difference between SI and J? Oh, so this is like an MBTI question. So hi, Dovey. What's the difference between SI and J? they both are organized. So what's the difference? So J would be what, like OI in the MBTI system?
So like how is SI differentiated from really NI? I guess you could say.
So remind me what J is in MBTI, because it's been a while for me.
Dude, your guess is as good as mine. I forget too.
Okay.
I mean, I was basically born and raised in OP. Is that referring to TE?
No, J is like judger. Like in MBTI, it was like judgers. So it would be like IJs and EJs.
No, I know that, but like, what function is it referring to?
I don't
think
it's clear enough in this question, unfortunately. So
oh, okay.
So let me do this just to respect your time, Dovey. If you're here, if you could clarify the question, please. Okay, because we're not gonna sit here guessing. I'm sorry. Next, how hard is it since your observers are so far apart? So this is probably for you, right? So NI to SE, how hard is it for you, given that?
Yeah, it's I mean, I guess it's a missing information game, and I guess like I notice it more when I see people who are double observers, and they're just like the control and the chaos of things are like, yeah, like this stuff sucks, like yeah, sure, this packaging sucks, like whatever, like moving on, and it's not such a darn meltdown, and they just kind of roll through it. And I'm just like, oh gosh, like I feel so envious of people who are just like, I know that inside they're not getting that like heart palpitation of like, this is the worst thing ever, right. As it relates to the control and chaos of things. And like, if I don't prepare for this thing to happen, like if I don't prepare for this context, I'm not going to be ready for what might happen. And then these are some very probable things that could happen. And then that would be the worst thing because there would be chaos involved. Like that feeling on the inside, not an emotional feeling, it feels like literally like your heart's being like squeezed, is it sucks, Yeah. And I feel like I've lived with that for so long, and I see people who just kind of are like, yeah, whatever. And I'm just like, oh dang, that must be so nice to be able to like look at the observers and be like, this will suck, but it can be okay, and that's kind of what myself as a double decider, like that's what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, they suck and you suck, like whatever, I suck, you suck. So
yeah, I just in passing, like it's the worst feeling, like what you're saying with the heart. Like I feel that a lot, like and I know we have opposite, at least human needs, or it's like OE versus OI, but it's like
it's still
the worst. It's just like I will like lose my shit of like when it comes to like even chaos. Interestingly enough, it's like if there's too much chaos, I'm just like,
it's all control chaos issues.
It's just crazy. Yeah. So I definitely relate to that. So thank you for asking, Chris, or Crazy Chris, I guess. Next is Yanni. Hi, nice to meet you. So this is for you because I don't have NI, so I'm tapping out. Do you think what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink specifically will shape the future of MBTI and all the self-improvement foundations of most YouTuber channels? Or in general, what's your take on that?
So like that's like the microchip that's going in the brain.
Yep.
I think that the adoption of that is going to be very limited for a long period of time. I think there's too many EPs in the world who don't want to be controlled by like a brain microchip. I mean, there's definitely going to be a few, I'm probably sure like IJs and IPs who are like, let's go, Yeah. But I think for it to like shape the future of a more generalized set of type, I think that's going to be difficult because I think adoption of it is going to be very, very slow, unless there is provable results that show it is worth it in some kind of context. So I guess like my overall answer would be it has the potential to shape different things, but I don't think it's something we're going to see in our lifetime. I think that I think that the adoption of something such as that is going to be, I mean, if we have people who are, you know, freaking out about a potential microchip that might be in a vaccine, like, are we really like thinking that we're gonna actually be implanting things like on our brains and just be cool and ready to go with it? Like, there's a huge discrepancy there. And so I think it has the potential to change things, but I think adoption is going to be the issue. So
okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for that question, Yanni, especially. All right, Gray, hi. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, guys. All right. Do you think double feminine consume makes the consume last worse?
Oh, 100%. It makes it so much worse that like you don't even realize you're not doing it. Like, I feel like if it were double masculine, that it would be like you would kind of run into stuff more and realize that you're not doing it, and like have like I feel like that's how masculine sensory is. Even if it's a demon, it's like you'll like walk into something and you'll be like, oh well, since I walked into it, I have to address it and move it out of the way. It's like I feel like feminine sensory is like I'm gonna walk into it and like not notice and just keep walking, and then I'm gonna knock everything that was on the table over on the floor. You know, like that's what it feels like having consume last feminine sensory all the time. It feels like everything is liquid. It feels like I had this thing on my plate. It looks like a solid, but why is it all over the place now? What happened? Why? Like, it's so yeah, I would say it feels worse, but maybe that's just because it's my demon, you know.
Yeah. So Gray, there you go. Good luck. I don't know what else to tell you. It sucks. All right, so real quick, can you give an example of an SI tidal wave? My fucking life right now, guys.
Tell us more.
So, first of all, I'm honestly struggling at work because, like, you know, I'm having the whole "don't control me, bro." I freaking don't necessarily like it there. You know, and all the routines. It's like really simple routines that I'm just not doing. I'm just getting bashed for that, and so now my bosses have to play the role of, hey, now we gotta enforce you to do this now, which is making this worse. You know, then there are bills. I'm paying my bills, thank God, because I got money like that. But it's still stressful. Okay, I'm pretty sure they're like late, you know, toll gate tickets, things that I still haven't paid for. So that's probably accruing late fees, you know, credit stuff. Just fucking annoying. Then my room's a mess. My car's a mess. And then I got freaking social media stuff I'm trying to dominate, but then there's SI processing related to that. And I'm like, oh, fuck, why do I got to put time descriptions on everything? It's like, you know, it's just too much. Okay.
Yeah.
Why can't I hire someone to do all this? Is how I feel all the time. It's like, if I just had money, like, and I know everyone feels that way. If I just had money, I would just outsource it and just be done with it. But, you know, you'd say that about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that answers that for you. That wasn't your business either, but I decided to answer that. All right. Hopefully this is the last question. Okay, this is the last question. Do you relate to the cops and robbers thing, I guess, in relation to OE versus OI? So OE would be the robbers and OI would be the cops archetype. Like, do you view ESFPs as too chaotic for your INTJ-ness?
I mean, I would say, generally speaking, no, because it's almost like I get the ESFPs because it's like we have the same functions. I understand their language access that they're speaking on, and like they also have control and chaos issues. So it's like I get that, you know, and then I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just like my age, but I feel like I don't, like, if people of a certain type, I'm usually seeing a more mature version of it. So I think of like ESFPs in the OP group, and like they're cool as heck, you know, like Versavia is like, she's dope, you know, and like the other ones in there. And so I feel like, okay, like on that version, it's just like, I don't see it at all. But at the same time, I'm not hanging out with people in real life, like at all in general. So I'm like, I can't really give you the perspective if I was in a room full of people, like how that would feel. But But I mean, that's just kind of always how I've been. I've very much been in my little IJ box, metaphorically and literally. So
yeah, really interesting. Yeah, the people in the OP group, or at least some of the SFPs, are pretty. They're dominating. Cool. Not gonna lie to you. Oh, so one last question. Literally, I forgot. I probably like demon push it aside because it's about feelings. Okay, how do you feel, Lindsay?
Like right now?
Yeah, I guess.
I feel content. I feel like that's probably like the word that comes to mind most of the time when someone asks me, like, how do you feel? And unless I'm experiencing like an extreme version of an emotion, I generally feel very content. Like, I'm just like, yeah, like things are good, life is fine. Now, if you want to like deep dive on something like specifically, it's like, okay, well, then we can deep dive into like a range of emotion, maybe as it relates to that subject. But like we're talking about now, I feel very content. So
yeah, I feel stressed out. Sorry, Nick. I know you wanted a cute answer about positivity and shit. Like, let me qualify that. It's not like stressed out. Like, I genuinely enjoyed this conversation, Lindsay. I really mean that. And I had fun. I'm realizing with my sleep last is it won't stop though. Because like right now I'm literally like, okay, you need to close up, and then I need to go back to doing whether it's social media stuff or there's like emails I need to catch up on. It's like I'm already like moving in my mind.
Because your mind is telling you that you need to.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Like, I don't know how to turn it off. Like, I know you guys feel free. As a matter of fact, feel free to DM me with your suggestions because I know you're gonna do it anyway. So with that being said, it's like I've gotten a lot of suggestions on how to tone that down. It doesn't work. It's just. So
what do you feel like will happen if you don't do it?
If I'll be stressed out. Like, I'm just like, I feel guilty and stressed out, and I'm like, and then now I got to deal with people looking at me a certain way. It's all DE stuff. Then I got to look at people looking at me a certain way, and then just, so that's my honest answer. Yeah. So with that being said, llamas. Okay, she asked like a super last minute. Do you mind if we do this one?
No, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. So llamas, you're gonna be the last one, and then I gotta go. How can personality be okay, so I don't know if this is how can personality be objectively tracked if the source of the information is inherently subjective, unlike more mainstream studies or theories that track behavior? Correlation, technically. You're correlating. That's my answer. You're just correlating. That's how they're tracking it as of this moment.
I think it's like, it's other studies and theories that track behavior. It's like your perception of what a behavior is very subjective. So for instance, like if you're looking at the DSM and you're looking at the diagnosis of, ADHD, right? And like exhibits characteristics of this, right? Or of that. It's like you're interpreting that characteristic, that type of behavior through your own subjective bias, right? And so though they have a percentage of like, okay, to achieve a diagnosis, someone should have at least this many of these, characteristics, right? Okay, great. That helps them like rule out some error there. But it's like, show me two people who are assessing the same person and they are tracking on a scale of 512 possibilities, and like as it relates to something very close to what this person could be, and like getting the same exact number, so having the same exact symptoms, the same exact, right? And the OP system, I feel as though because of the statistical improbability of matching in that way, like that is where the validity lies. And like David Shannon always say, it's like they're tracking something, whatever you want to call it. There's something that's becoming trackable in the physical reality based on this scale. And for that to be a dart that we just both happen to hit the same dart on the board the same exact way is actually Versavi did a calculation on it, which is way better about than I am, but of the percentage of chance that would happen. And it's like 30,000 or something like that.
Gosh.
So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, really good. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for your questions, Lindsay. Thank you. So
Thank you.
Gotta jump the hell out. I'm doing my awkward blast. Okay.
Okay.
If you haven't
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care, Lindsay. All right. So real quick, guys, Lindsay, subscribe to her channel if you haven't already. Go get Snug, especially if you're a YouTube content creator. Okay. That's pretty much it. And then from there, feel free to like and subscribe this if you liked it. Okay. We're doing game night. So especially this is more so for the OP groups, Facebook groups. We're doing a game night next Saturday. Okay. So it's going to be Jackbox Party. It's going to be March 13th, 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern, and then 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And then from there, pretty much like we're going to have a lot of fun. Also, one thing that I'm also looking for, and this is just in passing for you guys, I am looking for more feelers on the show. So if you guys are a feeler and you guys want to, especially if you guys want to promote stuff or whatever, feel free to reach out to me, and then I think that'll be meaningful. We're gonna have a lot of people in March, and then from there, that's gonna be about it. So that's my whole blast. Thank you guys so much. I'll thank Lindsay separately again. And then leave a comment or message me if you guys have any further questions. Okay. So thank you. And I will see you on the next one.